I'm about to kick us off. Let's get started. Ladies and gentlemen, hey Fabrice, you got me nervous, bro. Sorry, man. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Onside ZA, powered by Betway. Get way more. Ballers, welcome back as always. In the studio with me, Len Moleko, Tsepi Worldwide.
Yeah, man.
Super Sub.
Yeah, man.
And for me, an absolutely huge figurehead from a golden era in the Premier League era. He is a product of the Arsenal Academy. He had great seasons with Birmingham City and Bolton Wanderers, and his name is Fabrice Muamba. Fabrice, welcome.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me.
Are we not going to accept? But we're not going to accept.
We need a clap for Fabrice.
Clap for Fabrice, yes.
Welcome, man. I mean, it's obviously big news for us here in the studio to have you join us. And your career started off at one of the top academies in the United Kingdom, Arsenal. You're a product of that academy, and it showed on the pitch with your ability to move the ball around quickly and vision being a big part of your game.
I was fortunate enough that I started a very good academy from Arsenal, and then I had what helped as well. Arsenal, we had a lot of good coaches who helped you as a young player to study the game, and also at the time, Arsenal wasn't the Arsenal of 2023, but it's the Arsenal of Thierry, Dennis, Patrick, Sol, Mr. Wenger himself. So you have a lot of good people to look up to, people where you can learn the game from. I was there since from age 14 until I left there at age 18. I took the opportunity to go on loan to Birmingham City for me, I always said is the best decision I ever made in my life, because going out there, it taught me a lot about myself as a man and also as a player. Being able to play for, the results matter more than anything else, and being able to challenge to get promoted to the Premier League. And fortunately, we got promoted as well. And I signed permanently that following season. I had one season there, we got relegated. Then I moved to Bolton, where I spent good 5 years, which was probably the most exciting part of my career. And obviously in 2012, my career got cut short of an accident that I don't have no control of. But the most important thing, I get to see the people of South Africa from far distance, and they get to watch me. I get to spend time with my family, my kids, and I get to do different things.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to see you doing this. And I think the whole world sort of stopped for a moment. In that moment that you're talking about, that moment that cut your career short, in what was, I don't know how many people remember just how good that Bolton side was that you were in, like littered with talent. I remember, I think you were on the pitch that day, an absolutely spectacular goal from Johan Almander against Wolverhampton Wanderers. And I mean, the feat from Johan that day.
No, you know what, during that month leading to the month that we had an amazing couple of months as a team, is that everybody was just getting to Johan. Johan need to score more goals, and then Johan is a star score goal, and then to go to away to Wolves, which is a very difficult place to play, and Johan produced that, arguably the most, I'll probably say the best goal he scored in his career, because it's very difficult to beat three people in the tightest space and then to place the ball at the bottom corner of the net. So yeah, we had a great time, great team, great spirit, a lot of guys who are demanding in terms of what they want to do in the pitch, a lot of leaders. And I enjoy that team. We're very, very, very good group of guys together, work very hard together.
So Fabrice, from the academy at Arsenal at age 14, obviously at the time you're still relatively young. You are probably thinking about a professional career. But what is it that was focused mostly on at that time that got you to be the player that got to where you got to, playing for Birmingham, playing for Bolton? What is it that was changed or was crafted in you from the Arsenal Academy?
So from a very young age, because I joined the academy quite late, technically I wasn't as good as the guys that was there from very early on, So the guys that obviously from the Congo, we don't have the academy. But when you go to the Europe, they have a setup. They have where they can train 2 or 3 times a week. There's a program there where, one evening we only can do technical work for 1 hour. All those kind of stuff, I wasn't aware of that. So when I joined the academy, it's almost like they had to break me down to build me back up again. So they start from the bottom, your technique, your passing, defending, attacking, all that kind of stuff. But with me, I always loved defending. I always loved stopping people and being able to break up the play. I knew that I wasn't the most technically gifted players in terms of the guys that I had around me. But one thing I always knew is that if I worked hard and I do the nitty-gritty stuff, I always have a place in the team. And I think this served me well in every team that I play. You always need somebody in the team that will break up the play and recycle again. So for me, spending 4 years at Arsenal from the academy age group, teaching technical stuff, tactical stuff, training with the first team, and also what's also helped is that every time we have opportunity, every week, there's only 1 or 2 of us who go train with the first team. So you train with older boys, which is they're stronger, more quicker. They are more physically mentally they're two step ahead of you. So when you train with them, it helps you. So when you go down to train with people your own age group, you're almost thinking like them because you've been exposed to play with guys who are world class, who are, they think within a second, but once you drop down your age group, you're like, oh, this is more easier. And the more you train, the more you become more confident. And I think that helped a lot as well.
Now, hi, Fabrice. I want us to then take us to, obviously you are now playing for the Trotters and you are doing quite well. And then the unfortunate event happens when you are playing against Tottenham. And obviously for a good 7 to 8 minutes, your heart is not beating. And you eventually come back to life. I want us to have a conversation about, the decision that you had to make to, number one, retire. And also, what type of space were you psychologically at that point to reach that decision?
So when I woke up at the hospital was the accident happened on a Saturday evening, so I didn't wake up to the Monday, and then I had 3 weeks of trying to get my kidney working because my kidney wasn't working anymore, so that was stopped as well. And I was told that I need to have a portable defibrillator, a pacemaker put in. So in order for me to come back in and play, in order for me to be insured to play again, I need to have a portable pacemaker. The pacemaker that Ericsson has got, that he's playing at the moment. The portable pacemaker that the guy Ajax has got, the left back who was at Man United, Blind. Danny Blind. He has a pacemaker. So at the time, because I was so down for so long, the impact had damage on my heart. Even though if I had put it in, it would still be dangerous for me to come back and play.
The risk, yes.
The risk was just too big. Even though deep down, I was like, I want to go back and play because, for me, I feel like this saga has been cut short, I don't have a say on it, but I had a pacemaker put in, and after a couple of weeks, you start to assess. You literally, me and my wife, we sat down and my parents, we had a conversation, and I went to see 3 specialists, one in Belgium, one in Central London, 2 of them in Central London. The one in Belgium is the best in the world for dealing with heart surgery. They said to me, you go back and play football, it's like you run into your own grave. And I think somebody told you like that, you're like, hey, listen, I need to leave, man. Football's not everything.
That's scary. Yes.
Football is not everything, So, and that's the decision. But, I was fortunate enough that because the Professional Football Association, the PFA in England, they came out and support me, gave me all sorts of the help that I needed mentally and physically, in terms of just getting myself back to my normal mindset again. But obviously, to go watch football, I didn't go watch football for a couple of months, but probably the whole 7-8 months, I didn't want to watch football. I watch on TV, but I can never go watch a live like this in the stadium as well.
Stadium, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we all love football, but there's only so far your love's going to take you, right? It's not going to take you to a grave, man. So there's a ghost here in our studio. We call him Super Sub. He doesn't come onto the cameras, but you're going to hear his voice in a moment, and he's got a couple pressing questions for you that I refuse to ask you, and that's why I've left it on him, because if you don't put a face on the voice, then at least he's a little safer, you know?
How's it, Fabrice?
How are you, my friend?
I'm well, man. First question that I have for you, obviously you mentioned that you left DRC at a very young age. Any reason why you never opted to represent the DRC national team at a senior level?
You know, with the situation with DRC, because my father was heavily involved in the politics when we were there from Mobutu's time. He's always been a target when we were known people in and around, the whole Kinshasa place. So me coming back and say I'm gonna represent the Congo, it's almost like I'm bringing the bad vibe, but the bad idea, the bad vibe back again, because people just think he's a Mobutu person. So he always had mind of, I'm coming in the politician side. So I tend to just stay out of it. So I just felt like it was best to move away from it. But even that though, they never really approached me to when I turned about 20 years old. That's when they approached me.
Yeah.
Prior to that, it was never really a conversation. Hence why, I represent England from 16 all the way to
21.
21, so yeah.
While we're on that, your youth international level, you were a runner-up with that England youth team in 2009 with the European Under-21 Championships, a championship that the young England side just won a month or two ago. Talk to us about some of the players that stood out for you. I mean, there's been a lot of press around a lot of them, and some of them are big stars already. But there's certainly a lot of talent in that side, isn't there?
From you obviously you guys on the other side of the world. So now I'm on this side. Was playing. It takes a lot for you to get into the England Under-21. It takes a lot, and I mean, it takes probably a whole season in the Premier League. You playing, starting, finish, play all 30 games, then you get selected for England Under-21. Now, it doesn't take much no more anymore. Like, if you look at the national team, if you play 4 or 5 games, you're in the first team. If you play a couple of games in the championship, you're in the first team. So you're like, well, I understand times moves on, things different, but I always feel listen, they've done well. The FA have invested so much money into developing the England youth team from every age group. So to see them to succeed the way they have been they have the success they have so far. It's credit to everybody that's involved. But I think coming up, you talk about my tournament against Germany, we lost 4-0 in the final against Germany. The next summer, Germany play England in South Africa. That Germany squad had 5 guys that played against us in the starting 11.
Yeah.
So you're like, well, who's making the progress then?
True.
And we had 1 guy in the squad for that game. So if you start to weigh things, it's a bit difficult to compare. This generation, our generation. But all you can say is that times moved on, and it's much easy. In my humble opinion, I think it's much easier to play for national team now than it was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And that same Germany team that beat you guys, some of their players went on to win the 2014 World Cup, yeah?
Yeah. And I think they won the final. I think they won the World Cup. One of the German team won the World Cup. A couple of guys were still from the Under-21 team with us. So you can make it what it is.
Now, speaking of South Africa, you mentioned South Africa slightly, and I mean, you have a journalism degree, and I know that on ITV you also, were broadcasting or really doing some work about, continental football, and that's the reason I'm going to be asking you this question. Now, I find that, when it comes to football, and especially when it comes to players that have potential to play, in Europe, for example, or even in the EPL, we seldom have players from the southern region of Africa getting that opportunity. I want you to tell me what could be the reason behind that. And also for a person who is young enough right now and wants to also have, an opportunity to play for even Wanderers, for example, how do they go about it?
So if you like how you can buy a player from a team in France and come straight to England. Mm-hmm. One thing people don't tell everybody the truth is that this is based on FIFA ranking in the country. So if you look at the FIFA ranking, the top 50 country that is ranked in FIFA. So which means if South Africa are 50th, I can go to, what's the team in South Africa? The Pirates? Is it the Pirates?
Yes, the Pirates.
Yeah. So I can go to the Pirates. I can go to the Pirates, yeah, and I could buy a player from the Pirates, come straight. As long as he played 10 games in a national team, I can buy him and come straight to play in the EPL.
Okay.
But I can still buy him. If he hasn't played 10 games, I can buy him, then loan him to a team in France, Germany, or Spain. And they get a year over there, they can come play in EPL.
Move straight, yeah.
That's how that it works. So it boils down to the national team. If the national team do well, it almost affects everybody in terms of the local team, because, as I said, I can go buy a player from the Pirate Bank, come to Arsenal. That's straight, because there's no middle ground anymore. I don't have to send him on loan. As long as he played for the national team 10 or 15 times, we're good to go.
Yeah, in terms of your work permits to gain a work permit in the UK based on FIFA rankings. Yeah.
So on that, Fabrice, there's a book I read a couple of years ago. It's called Why England Lose, and there's a reference they make there in terms of one of the writers mentions that a lot of South Africans, when they got here prior to the 2010 World Cup, they firstly came to a country that they thought was a country of midgets. And number two, the way South Africans are built is not the same as how the rest of the continent, going central, going west and north. Mm-hmm. And that plays a huge part in being able to succeed in the English game. How much truth is in that?
So if you look at some of for example, if you look at Manchester City, if you look at how they are from back to front, okay, Ederson 6'1", Kyle Walker 5'10", the two guys in the middle, they're about 6'1", 6. The left back is a young lad, 5'8". Rodri is 5'11". Erling is 6'3". So it goes from having, they used to have like small guys. Now it's big guys who can, who's mobile enough, who can be able to make. Physically, it helps a lot. So if you look at the map of Africa, especially in you got the Congolese, you got the Ivorian who are more tall, stocky. You got the Cameroonian who go so not the tallest, but the more strongest. You got the Ghanaian, not the tallest, but the shortest, but they got, the power, the ACL look like. And then, keep going down. If you go to North Africa, you got the Algerian, very skinny, but very skillful.
Yeah.
So it's all different, and also depending how the recruitment of the football club is. If you look at how football club operate, we buy you on a cheap, we sell you in for more money. As long as you make progress, as long as you improve, it's at the end of the day, it's become a business now. So there's no hidden secret about it. Football, it's a business. And if I can get one or two guys who are long-term successful, we'll be able to make money. But it's all come with, the first thing they look at is this physical presence. That makes a massive difference. Physically, if you're big enough, you're technically good enough, you're good to go.
Sorry. Super Sub's going to talk to you again, Fabrice.
Yeah, Fabrice, you just mentioned now that football, it's business, and we've seen it now in the current transfer window that the Saudi Arabians are really, really spending a lot of money. What is your take on that league? Is it a league that you ever watched? What is your take on that?
Honestly, I I could not name a team that over there that I know, So it's something that is brand new. However, you and I know they've got the money, and money speak every language.
Yeah, true. Yeah, no, football has been commercialized, and you can see now with the Saudis that they are now attracting even young players,
So I think, I don't know how long this wave of expenditure will last, because we always have this movement now and again, because, in the beginning was China who had a wave where they're buying big players. Then, and England took over. And I'm not sure how much that product it's sellable. You can sell it worldwide, because you got to understand the Premier League is a product, is a brand.
Yeah.
Serie A is a brand. MLS is a brand. I don't watch MLS, but this year I watch MLS because they've got Messi in there.
You and I, Fabrice, we don't watch MLS as well.
But if you watch, French league, you got Mbappe, so you can sit down and watch. However, it's just that the Saudis league, it's new. There's not many history about it either, so nobody know who won the league 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Obviously, people in that part of the world might know, but for a common individual, you and I wouldn't know the president of God knows, the team over there. So I think, listen, it's exciting. I'll be lying if they call me today, say, listen, we want you to be a ball boy. I say, where, please tell me. I can fly. I could be the ball boy. It's not a problem. But I just think they don't have any history there. Yeah. There's no history about the league, and that's what makes it more difficult. But financially, they outspend everybody, especially with the new namers deal as well. Wow.
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
If you were still playing Fabrice and they called you for a 2-year deal.
My friend.
God.
My friend. I'll work for how to work. I'll work there. Hey, listen, in 2 years, no problem. No problem. 2 years, my life, no problem. We'll go there.
Yeah.
To use the British proverb, get on your bike, son.
Hey, listen, even if I had to crawl to get there, I will crawl to get there.
Yeah, Fabrice, just to add on that, I read somewhere that the league itself, the Saudi league, they've been trying to get a broadcasting deal from the UK, and they've been battling. Could it be because it's not a sellable league, or is there no interest at all in the UK and around?
Which is true. They have tried to buy the broadcast. I think it's Sky or BT or TNT. They tried to showcase the game. I mean, listen, it was. Last time I watched the game over there, it was one stand was full, the middle was empty, the other side was full. So it's very difficult to engage in the atmosphere. I can see why the broadcasting company it's great, but it's not like you're going to attract people from Europe, not sustainable. Like people from Europe will say, I'm going to go to Saudi, go and watch a game over there. Listen, you've got most of the players, good players, but it's not like, it's very difficult, put it that way.
Now let's switch gears a bit. I'm going to call you coach now. Because, you have received your B license from City, you got your A license from Stoke, and you are currently the manager of the under-15s at the Trotters. Do you have any ambitions of, at some point, managing the adult or the professional team? Or are you more interested in sticking with the young ones and developing them as opposed to, wanting to run the entire show?
So I left Bolton at the end of season. They're just gone. So
So Google is lying to us.
Yeah, Google. I've not really put it out there. So I moved to Burnley at the beginning of this season. So I've been in Burnley since end of June.
Oh wow.
It's and obviously to go there and to work with some of the young guys and good people across there, also have access to the first team, Vinny and his backroom staff. So it's been great for me. I'll be lying to you if I say to you that I don't want to manage it up at the top. I think if somebody give you opportunity to manage any team, especially a Premier League team, you have to test yourself. So I'm no different, and if the opportunity presents itself, Championship, League One, Premier League, I'm definitely up for the challenge, not a problem at all.
We wish you all the luck in the world with that. Going back to the business cases, we're looking at sides like Brighton, and we're talking about the Saudis spending money freely. Chelsea spending money absolutely freely at the moment, seeming to pick up more and more talent as they go, with money not being an option. One of those deals being Moses Caicedo from Brighton, who I call the Benfica of England, because they seem to pick up players for nothing and sell them off for huge sums of money.
I mean, one thing we need to really clarify here, nobody's is worth the price of what they pay for. That's just a fact of it. That's just true. Because
for sure.
That is 100% true.
No, for sure.
In 1998, 50 million pounds will get you Zidane. And that's Zidane coming with Ballon d'Or, best player in the world, and everything. And Zidane is a whole package. Okay, 50 million. That's Zidane. Okay, so now 50 million pounds, you get Ben White from Arsenal. You tell me which part that makes sense to you. Now 80 million pounds. Don't listen. He's a good guy. You'll get Harry Maguire. Which part that makes sense to you? So, in terms of prices, I really don't watch that and say, oh, yeah, it's business at the end of the day. We know that's business, okay? But it is not, it's a reflection. It put more pressure on the players, because I'm expecting a 50 million pound players to do what a 50 million pound is supposed to do, which is play, score, control, everything. That's what I expect from a 50 million pound. If I'm getting a 100 million pound player, my friend, I expecting a 100 million pound performance every single week, like it or not, because that's what we expect. Yeah. So even though those guys are going for big money, the pressure on them to perform is humongous. It's huge now, because it's not their fault those price tags has been put on them. It's the nature of the business. However, as I said, the quality is not the same as what it was 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 10 years ago, because everything seems to be money driven. As you said, Brighton idea is great, but one thing you also have to realize, this summer transfer, right? Man City have brought in, is it 2 players?
Yeah, and they in for one more. They're
looking for Paqueta.
Yeah, they're looking at Paqueta from West Ham, and they got Josko Gvardiol. That's the only one they spent money on, because Kovacic was free.
And who's the other one? The young lad who from the left back? Is he left back or right back?
Gvardiol.
Gvardiol is right back. Right back. Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they spend I don't know how much they spend on him regarding to the price. That's like 2 men pair they bought in, all right? But what you guys don't know, in their reserve team, they're under 21. They've sold 9 players worth £100 million. So who's out of business here? Who's doing a smart business? Brighton or Man City?
Well, definitely City. I think City are in the fortunate position to have a well-run football club. And it's something we've discussed on this podcast many times before. When you look at how the quality sort of trickles down from the top, and seemingly Manchester City, not only in the transfer market, not only in recruitment, but the leaps and bounds they've come along in the academy level, the leaps and bounds they've come along on their facilities, the backroom facilities, the backroom staff, the directors of football, and then obviously with exceptional scouting network, but also exceptional ability on the coaching staff as well. Pep Guardiola and his team are doing great work. So Manchester City is definitely the model, but I think they don't have the pressure that perhaps Chelsea have, or even Manchester United, Arsenal, who are under pressure to try and close that gap with Manchester City. So they're not in that desperate phase of spending, are they?
But then with the Chelsea model, it's something about Chelsea model. It's like they've beat a FIFA play rule where FIFA say you're allowed to spend, set amount of money on certain players. Yeah. They're giving Cancelo, 150 million pounds. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's an 8-year contract.
Yeah,
So
that's
if you
how
do
they're
150,
doing it.
you say if you do 115 divided by 8, so it works out like they're all paying like 20 million a year. That's a very clever. That's like, it's almost like
When you think about
when
it,
you think about it, you think, wow, it's very clever. But then he sold Madison, he sold Ruben Loftus-Cheek, he sold quite a lot of academic guys that come through the ranking. That again, they've made money out of them to be able to facilitate to make those kind of deal happen.
Yeah, the Mason Mount move as well.
Yeah, Chelsea's in terms of the recruitment and the selling and buying, and City, they're almost doing is a different format, but they're making money out of it.
Yeah, and I agree with you there, Fabrice, when you mentioned that City has been doing good business. Because if you look at the current deal that Lavia is gonna have, City are gonna get some pounds there from that deal, and it's the academy player.
And that's what they do with every single player they've sold. They always have a huge buyback on them.
Speaking of players coming for quality and sticking in the Premier League, another Chelsea potential signing that may go through soon, Olise, who's looking like, relative to the rest of the market, a bit of a bargain buy because of that, because of the clause in his contract, where if anyone makes that minimum offer, the club's accepted it. So they've met the contractual clause for Michael Olise, who I think is an absolute talent.
Yes.
But then you also have to, you got to really be honest with yourself as a player, and also, are we joining Chelsea to play, or are we joining Chelsea to make money? Because, at the moment, when the transfer window closed, from my understanding, Maurice Pochettino, he has a rule that this is my 23-man squad. I'm gonna work with them. Anybody else outside that, I'm not interested in. There's still got big number in there that they need to get rid of. So bringing Olise into the mix-up, listen, it's a great move for him, but does he really need to leave Crystal Palace? How much game time he will get from Chelsea and will get at Crystal Palace? At Crystal Palace, he's the man. He's the man. Let's not be around the bush. At Palace, he's the guy. He's the go-to guy. At Chelsea, he's not the guy. So when you got to weigh up your option, is it really worth it to do that?
So it's no different for him going to the Saudi League. In fact, in the Saudi League, he will get money and game time.
But in Chelsea, he will get money, less game time.
Yeah.
And Chelsea are not in the Champions League.
Speaking about that, there seems to be, and speaking about money and Champions League, there seems to be a pool that the Champions League does not have, or maybe money talks. Like we said, football is a business. Caicedo going to Chelsea, Lavia going to Chelsea. This is a team that's not going to play in the Champions League. And I'm sure for players of their caliber, they want to hear that song on a Tuesday night, on a Wednesday night. But instead, they're choosing just to perhaps get game time in a Poch side.
You know what? When you get a manager like Poch, you know what you're going to get with Pochettino. Okay? It's not like a hidden secret. However, play Champions League like Arsenal, Liverpool, Arsenal, Newcastle, City, United. You need a big squad to be able to play Champions League, FA Cup, Carabao Cup, and Premier League. Okay? So Champions League on a Tuesday, you might have a different squad. Premier League on a Sunday or Saturday, you might have a different squad. So that's a lot about balance. I think what advantage Poch's got this year is that he only have one game a week. So which means he has the boys to work on a specific task every single week and say, okay, we're playing for the game, for example, the game against Liverpool on a weekend. In the first minute, you're thinking this could be dangerous for Chelsea. But gradually, Chelsea grew into the game. They show more confidence and they almost won the game. And you feel like with Poch having a week with them every single week, it's almost like when he signed for Southampton, how difficult they were, how play on the front four. And I think that's what helps, is that when you have time on a pitch with the boys, it makes a massive difference. He only has to focus on the Premier League. Whenever they have a competition come, that's all you have to focus. Beside that, there's nothing else to worry about.
No pressure.
Fabrice, let's get into some of the weekend's fixtures, and I want to start this off talking about Liverpool rather, because you did bring up the extra games that certain sides are going to have to play now, and obviously Liverpool playing in the Europa League, which means even more fixtures than a Champions League campaign. They've lost a few players in the window, perhaps not players that they wanted. They did shed some players that perhaps were getting up there in age, some players who didn't meet the requirements of fixtures because of injuries, things like that. But they didn't recruit as strongly as they perhaps would have liked. And I think a lot of Liverpool fans will be concerned, especially with them going in for Moses Caicedo. It seems like the staff at Liverpool are well aware that they're short of players. So they went in for a big offer of Caicedo, didn't get that deal as Chelsea took it, and the Lavia deal as well. A lot of concern with Liverpool, and they'll be facing off with Bournemouth this weekend. Still big favourites at home to play Bournemouth. What do you think of the fixture?
I mean, listen, it'll be Jurgen Klopp's first game of the season at home. You expect the atmosphere to be electric. You expect Liverpool to play at the front four. However, Bournemouth have a new manager who I think has a potential to always cause upset, as his history shows when he was in Spain. But it's an Anfield, and you expect Liverpool to play at the front four. You expect Liverpool to do the job against a new build Bournemouth side this season.
Yeah, I think most of us would agree, guys. Your predictions: Liverpool versus Bournemouth at Anfield.
It's Anfield.
Liverpool,
this is Anfield.
definitely.
Yep.
Yeah, with the game that we saw last night, we saw United struggling at home. So
Yeah.
I think they were lucky to get all 3 points there. I'm gonna go with Bournemouth on this one. I think it's gonna be a stalemate.
The guy behind there, he doesn't like Man United, eh?
Not at all.
He's a Man City fan. He's a Man City fan. So
I think he's upset because they're losing 1-0 so far. That's why he's upset now.
Yes, I saw that.
So look,
I just saw that Sevilla scored.
Yeah.
So I think that you would be the happiest of all of us if your prediction's right, because the odds are 11 to 0. So like you'd get some big money on the Betway app there.
Yeah, no, I need to get on Betway, yeah.
So moving on to other fixtures, obviously the big fixture from this coming weekend, Tottenham Hotspur at home hosting Manchester United. Fabrice?
Again, Spurs away to Brentford last weekend. It was a promising. I think there was a bit of a shell shock in terms of how they started, but as the game went on, they looked improved. They looked completely different style of play from any other manager they've had before. They want to dominate possession at home. It will be interesting to see how they cope with the pressure of trying to play against this Man United team who are very good at counter-attack. And again, that will be the first home game without no Harry Kane as well. So it'll be interesting how they cope without Kane at home. For me, I was, United to win.
It's a good call. I like that call, Fabrice. I'm a Man United fan. So, look, I do like Tottenham Hotspur at the moment. I think the James Maddison signing has looked promising after that first game. I really like the look of Maddison. Song getting the captain's armband. I have a lot of respect for Song. I think he's a top player. So it's not going to be an easy game for Man United, but they are favourites to win this, even away from home. And I'm going to back them as well.
I'm going to switch a little bit. I think Man United unless if Erik ten Hag makes a few changes.
Yep, definitely.
Garnacho starting, I don't think he was very impactful against Wolves.
True.
If he makes a little tweak to his front three, then maybe I will go with United. But if Erik ten Hag goes with the same squad that he went into against Wolves, then I think Spurs are more prolific than what Wolves showed to not to be on the Monday. And give them a chance or two, give them a sniff or two, Spurs will hurt you.
Yeah, so the clinical nature of Spurs versus like Wolves throwing a lot of chances away on Monday night. that might be a factor.
Yeah.
Tsepi?
Yeah, I agree with you. Garnacho was not meant to start. Generally, he's not really a starter. I think that naturally they could have had a Sancho start as usual. And I don't think Rashford is supposed to be where he is. I think that he should be playing at least as left back. Yes. Left winger, sorry. He should be there. He's not comfortable in this position here. But I was very happy with what Bissaka did. In fact, he is, the one person who was quite instrumental in how the game went. I'm not so sure about what happens with Shaw on the right, but yeah, let's see what happens.
Super sub, your prediction? So first of all, you guys are going for Spurs wins.
Yes,
I'm going
Spurs
for
is
a
winning.
Spurs win, yes.
Yeah.
Super sub?
Spurs at home, and it's going to be a tough one. I think, I agree with you guys. I think Spurs might just pull a surprise. Because honestly speaking, I'm not convinced about United's performance. But again, it's just the first game, like Fabrice was saying. Let's see what happens on Saturday.
Fabrice, we're alone on this Man United one, buddy. Speaking of, Tsepi brought up Wan-Bissaka's performance in the last game. And something we're seeing more and more of in modern football is inversions of players. And it's perhaps something we saw a little less of in your era, where you had a job to do and that was your job. And the modern footballer needs to be slightly more adaptable in this modern, like, inversions in the transition of the game.
Yeah, I think that's one thing. Eric Ten Hag, when he signed for Man United, if you realize that, he dropped Wan-Bissaka. He played Diallo at that position. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And one of the things was, like, defensively, 1v1, there's nobody in the Premier League better than Wan-Bissaka in terms of defensive. Right. But in terms of ball positioning and contribution, that he needs to get better. And I think summer ago, and I think this summer, he posted a video on him on Instagram, working on his taking people on and working on just being better on the ball. And it shows also during the course of the season, as Aaron tend to get more confident in a game, he become more free. He's able to express himself freely. We saw that when they played Man United at home at Old Trafford, how much of an impact he had in the team. Defensively, it's not an issue. Now, offensively, it starts to offer something else in the team as well. I think that's what has been beneficial to see from a view.
Yeah, and I think he proved a bit of a point with his assist on Monday night. It was quite a clever little soft lobbed cross,
something nice there,
in for Varane. Terrific ball from Bruno Fernandes, of course, who's an absolutely stellar player. Mm-hmm. It's interesting to see these inversion systems, and as we'll see it in more and more of, especially the bigger sides, with a lot of inversions in the transition. Moving on, another Manchester club, Manchester City hosting Newcastle. The odds obviously favouring Manchester City at home, but Newcastle were... So Manchester City are favourites being at home to Newcastle. And the odds are quite well stacked against Newcastle. I don't think that they actually fair, because it's the odds of 5 for Newcastle to bag a win here. I think they deserve a little bit more respect from the bookies, don't they?
They do.
I agree. I think that's because you got to look at this. Newcastle played, I think they played on Sunday. They played Sunday.
Yeah.
And they've had a week of preparation. City playing today, travel home tomorrow, training on Friday, play in the evening, Saturday evening at 8 o'clock against Newcastle. Which one is the fresher team?
Definitely Newcastle, and they were a good side already last season.
This is not the Newcastle of 2 years ago or 3 years ago. This is a whole different Newcastle.
Yeah.
Completely different Newcastle.
Absolutely. And I think the Harvey Barnes signing, that has impressed me, because I liked him as a Leicester player already. But in this Newcastle side, he really put Aston Villa to the sword when he came on the pitch.
Yeah, Eddie's gone from pace and power. And that's what, pace, power, they've got the height. You've got Chris Wood, you've got, Isaac at the top. So it's a very, very exciting team. And every single time you watch them, they're very difficult to play and very difficult to defend set pieces against. So for me, I'll say 2-0 Newcastle.
Wow. We're going to wait to hear from him. Wait to hear from Super Sub. Look, the other factor as well, which I think maybe whether it's a factor or it's a non-factor, the absence of Kevin De Bruyne in that Man City squad.
Yep.
Yeah, because now that affects our depth, because Kevin De Bruyne is very instrumental in that team, but also there's Kovacic. But I think the most important thing that Fabrice mentioned is the fact that they're playing tonight and they're traveling. I think that's gonna be very difficult for Manchester City on Saturday. And also looking at the fact that Newcastle have started where they left off last season. They're a very difficult side to beat. And City actually struggled against Newcastle last season, so.
And yeah, Man City's a side that's used to dominating possession. And I don't think Newcastle will mind that much traveling away to City. And I think Eddie Howe will have that as part of his game plan to hit them on the counter. And he's got a lot of pace in that Newcastle side that can really hurt Man City.
No, I agree.
I always say Newcastle under Eddie, they look more a different team, very difficult team to play against, very, very organized. As I said, the back four beside Trippier is the shortest one. Everybody is 6'1", 6'2", 6'3". You got a goalkeeper who's 6'5". You got Isaac, and you've got Joelinton in the middle. And you've got the new guy they just bought. So everything in there, it looks like it's built for success this season. Yeah. And I think coming to Etihad on Saturday, if Man City lose today, which I hope they do.
Me and you are not best friends, Fabrice.
My friend, that's the whole point of football. It's a game of opinion. If Man City lose today, which I hope they do, and they face a very intense Newcastle, it would be a whole different story.
For me, I'm going to back a draw just because I don't like to bet against City too much because they're a profusely professional side and Pep Guardiola is a really top manager.
True.
And there's a lot of talent in that Man City squad. They play good ball.
I see you like to sit on the fence here. You don't want to get involved with
She's indecisive, yeah.
Stop calling me out, Fabrice. Stop calling me out.
Discussion, you can't be just sitting on the fence and say hello to everybody. No, you have to get involved,
But it is my honest opinion. I don't like to bet against City, and I would normally back them for a home win against almost anyone. But this Newcastle side will hurt them. I think what I would place my bets on is to bet on both sides scoring goals. I don't think that it'll be a result to 0. I think it will be a score draw.
I'm going to go with Fabrice. I think Newcastle has a surprise waiting for Man City, mainly based on the missing of the Kevin De Bruyne point and also the playing today. Yes, we know they have a level of depth.
Yes,
right?
They do.
But this is a Newcastle team that already is having a video session while watching the game live right now. And working out, okay, cool, how are we going to counter these people?
I'm saying City wins.
Okay, there's 2 calls for City to win because Super Sub, I haven't even asked you, but I think you're going for a Super
No, it's going to be a City win. It's gonna be a difficult one. I think it's 2-1 to City.
Has it ever not been a win?
It's 2-1 to City.
Okay. Well, how's about that?
Let's
move on to the next game. We spoke about them a little earlier on. Chelsea traveling to West Ham. This is where I'm not going to sit on the fence. I'm going to go for Chelsea to win away from home. Fabrice, Chelsea traveling to West Ham. David Moyes has a side that's hard to beat, but I really like the look of this Mauricio Pochettino Chelsea side, rather.
Yeah, and listen, take nothing away from Mauricio. He's coming to a West Ham team who also need some new bodies in the building. They're short of numbers in certain area. But what you think? One thing you guaranteed to see from David Moyes' team is well organized. They work hard, and I think the quality at the top end of the pitch will make a difference in this game. So I will say a draw.
Okay, Super Sub.
It's easy. Chelsea win.
Len?
I was also leaning towards a draw for the purpose that Chelsea are still trying to get the Chelsea, their style of playing, the Poch way of doing things. you can't get it from one game or two games. So they're still trying to get that arrangement going. Whereas you've got West Ham that you don't know if whether Paqueta is going to play or not because he might be moving. Yes, they've added Ward-Prowse. Declan Rice is gone. So with a team that almost looks like we still need to sort out a few positions, I'll go for a score draw.
I hear you, Lane, when you're saying that they still have not really found their groove per se, because they also have, a bunch of new players. I mean, Disasi is also new, so that also means that they need to still gel. But I still think that considering also that they do have star quality and they do have star power as it stands, the absence of Nkunku might also be a disadvantage for them. But I think that they have enough right now to be able to come out comfortably with the win. I'm going for Chelsea.
Okay, so I'm going to make Len and Fabrice wait a little bit longer for the result for the fixture they're waiting for. Aston Villa versus Everton. Aston Villa fell apart after an ACL injury, which is something I actually wanted to chat to you about, Fabrice, a little later on. Aston Villa versus Everton. What are we thinking? For me, I'm the biggest fan in the world of Sean Dykes, so I'm going for an Everton win.
Yeah, it's going to be a difficult one. I mean, Aston Villa, they suffered their first game. They lost their first game. I think they're wounded, and I think Unai will wanna turn that ship around very quickly. I think I'm gonna go with Aston Villa on that one.
Len?
I'm going with Villa.
Tepi?
Everton.
Fabrice, you're the tiebreaker here. Everton versus Aston Villa.
I'm gonna go for Villa win. I think Villa are in a transition period. They've qualified for Europe this season, and I think easily building momentum, easily keep things in places for future. So, and they want to make sure that their first home game of the season they start impressive. They want to play well. So I would say a Villa win.
Okay. We're moving on to Arsenal. Unai Emery, obviously a former manager there. Fabrice, before we get into that fixture, what did you make of Unai Emery at Arsenal? Obviously hugely successful at Sevilla, who's going to beat Manchester City tonight. And then
Wow.
And then like seemingly poor managerial performance during his Arsenal tenure, and then coming into an Aston Villa side that looked terrible under Steven Gerrard and looked extremely formidable under Unai Emery.
I always said with Unai, his time at Arsenal, I think it happened in the wrong time. I think anybody who replaced manager like Wenger, Alex Ferguson, as soon as they leave, whoever comes in, we automatically think they should have. We put them in the same expectation of what those guys used to have.
Pressure.
The pressure is. I just think Unai Emery didn't need to come to Arsenal. Should have just wait another year or two in Paris, then make that transition. Don't get me wrong, he's done well. He's in his coaching career, but I just think he walked into a building, and I don't think he realized how big of a club Arsenal it was till he realized the magnitude of the task he had in hand, and it just never worked out for him. For whatever reason, I just feel like he just wasn't the right timing for him to be at Arsenal.
I blame Aubameyang.
Wow. No. That I agree with Fabrice is saying. I mean, if you had to look at the Sir Alex Ferguson thing.
David Moyes, yeah.
David Moyes came in, didn't really work out. Who's the Dutch bloke who came before Mourinho?
Louis van Gaal.
Louis van Gaal came in, never really worked out. Mourinho, because Mourinho is Mourinho, right?
I blame Pogba. I'm joking. You can't blame me.
He managed to win a trophy or two, but it just went downhill from there in a way. So some shoes are too huge to fill.
True.
And Sir Alex Ferguson left a very big pair of shoes. But filling a pair of shoes, Mikel Arteta now, Arsenal taking on Crystal Palace, who we spoke about. Arsenal, the away team, favourites from the bookmakers' standpoint. Fabrice,
I mean, again, Crystal Palace at home, it depends which Crystal Palace will turn up. You and I know when Crystal Palace are at it, they're a very difficult team. When they're not at it, then Arsenal can pull 6-7 past them if the Arsenal really turn up. So, Roy has to make sure that everybody who's involved are well-tuned, ready to run around, to be able to be difficult to play against. So the atmosphere will be electric, which you expected anyway. But I can see Arsenal quality just too good to go there and not to get a result. So I'll go for Arsenal to win the game.
Definitely.
Len, I'm going to start with you as an Arsenal fan. Easy one.
Look, if there's a plan to sort out the back line in the absence of Timber, who unfortunately has gone for pretty much the whole season.
Another ACL injury.
I don't know if it's, and I say good in inverted commas, to get an injury like that while the window is still open. Because remember when Arsenal lost Saliba towards the end of the season, that's when things look like they're crumbling.
A bit shaky.
And there were games that were lost that were not supposed to be lost. And most of them, you'd notice that the errors that happen in defense. So if we can just put the Timber injury at the back of our mind and just carry on with what we need to carry on with, then definitely I think Arsenal are challenging the season. But I think it's going to be a draw.
Interesting.
Yep.
Super sub?
No, I'll go for Arsenal win. I feel like Crystal Palace, there's still a lot that, losing players like, what's his name?
Wilfred
Zaha, who was very instrumental up front. I think, they might struggle a little bit, but I think Arsenal looked very strong. I mean, we saw in the Community Shield, they were very neck to neck with Manchester City. And they won their first game. So it looks like they picked up from where they left off last season. So I think it's going to be an easy Arsenal win.
Tippy?
I agree too. I think it's going to be an easy Arsenal win. I think also not only losing Zaha, but remember that they could be losing Olise. So I think that also might work against them. So I'm going for Arsenal. I think Crystal Palace is going to struggle with this one.
Look, if they lose Olise, we have to wait for Fabrice to say, here we go. And I'm not talking about Muamba.
I'm backing Arsenal in this game. I think Roy Hodgson looked hot under the collar in the first game over the weekend. I think that there's a lot happening that's a bit out of his control. As much as I think Crystal Palace will be dangerous on the counter-attack even at home against Arsenal, who will probably dominate possession, I think there's too much quality in that Arsenal side. I think Saka he's put on some size and he looks unstoppable this season.
Yep.
Martin Odegaard is one of my favorite number 10s to watch. I don't know if he's as good as a Kevin De Bruyne, but I love to watch Martin Odegaard play. And I think Eddie Nketiah getting the goal on the weekend, I think that will do wonders for his confidence, and we know what a number 9 does with some confidence. So I can only see an Arsenal win in this game.
Yeah.
But I like what Fabrice said, because sometimes you'd be banking on those points traveling to Crystal Palace and a different Crystal Palace side shows up. So that's the fixture I'm most scared of, except for obviously I called an outrageous fixture just because I like Sean Dykes. I called Everton to beat Aston Villa. So, I will back Arsenal, but I am concerned by this one.
Okay.
Still on Premier League, maybe should we ask Fabrice, come May next year, who's in the top 4, Fabrice?
4?
Yeah.
Chelsea.
Okay. In no order, right?
None, any particular order. No, like I'm saying the Chelsea, I'm just saying any particular order.
Okay.
Chelsea, City.
Okay.
So United or Arsenal are dropping out.
Arsenal and United.
Yeah, there's no Liverpool in
So
there.
no Liverpool.
So, and no Newcastle.
No Newcastle.
Take away Chelsea, put Newcastle in there.
I'll take away United and put Newcastle.
Take away Chelsea, put Newcastle in there.
Fabrice, toughest top four for some time, you think, this season?
I think there's a lot of teams in and around there that are well equipped, that are ready for it. The current top four that got into that position last year, they're all involved in the Champions League. So United, the City, Newcastle, the United City, Newcastle, who else is there? And Arsenal. So they're all involved in the Champions League. So it will be a huge task for them to get back in. It's all about having the bigger squad, being able to rotate, being able to keep the guys fresh and ready to compete. But as I said, you've got Chelsea, who's got one game a week. You've got, I think, a Liverpool team who might not be in the Europa League for whatever reason, but it'll be interesting to see how everybody cope as well. And you've got Brighton as well, so you can't sleep on them because they do play some good.
Yeah.
Aston Villa were pushing last season as well. They might put their hat in the ring for that one as well. But I think it might be just too much for a side like Aston Villa. And I mean, I do like Brighton. I like what you're saying. You can't discount them, but I think it's going to be too much for them as well, just because it's going to be an extremely tough top four. This is the first time in a few seasons we're not talking about Tottenham Hotspur even looking anywhere near that. Tottenham, no chance, hey, Fabrice?
I mean, this season, it's a rebuild project. I don't think with the sell of Harry Kane so late in the market, I don't think the current manager has had the time to bring in the player that he wants to.
Contingency plan.
Yeah, I don't think they left everything so late in terms of bringing personnel. So I think Tottenham just about, let's see how high we can finish.
They won the Tiger Cup, Fabrice.
What cup is that?
Richarlison, not adequate to replace Harry Kane, of course.
I mean, as I said, anybody who replaces people like Kane, you automatically expect them to hit 20 to 30 goals a season. I know. Can Richarlison hit 20 goals a season?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't see it.
There's actually few players that can actually in the market right now.
I don't think there's any available in the market to replace Harry Kane. I mean, maybe if you could get Erling Haaland, that would be a replacement for Harry Kane. But
other than that, there's not much.
Big if. Big if.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I call for Burnley to make the top half of the league come end of the season.
I'll back you on that one.
See, we agree.
On a lighter note, Fabrice, best player you've ever played with?
Best player to ever play with? I would say that playing with Dennis is probably the best. However, the best footballer, Dennis Bergkamp.
Oh.
Probably the best footballer I ever able to play, to share pitch with. Yeah, for me, Dennis.
And against?
4 scores.
What a player.
Oh, the player.
Marco always jumps every time Man United is mentioned.
Hey,
Guys, don't fight with me about Fabrice's favorite player he's ever played against. Okay, don't fight with me. Yeah, it's Paul Scholes.
No, fair enough.
No, Fabrice, absolutely stellar players. Dennis Bergkamp, I mean, can we... your opinion, that wonder Dennis Bergkamp goal, I think anyone knows which one I'm talking about. Was that fluke?
No. That's Dennis. That's Dennis. Seriously.
Completely on purpose, eh?
Yeah, that's Dennis. You know, I mean, he's come from the Ajax, the Dutch school of excellence. So it's understandable to know that technically he's very good. So he's able to do stuff like that in training, able to do stuff like that in a game of football. So for me, that doesn't surprise me at all.
My favorite description of Dennis Bergkamp was that it's as if he's watching the game from the stands when he plays. He's able to see the entire pitch. And I think that's as big a compliment as you're going to see for a footballer, is that he had unbelievable vision and unmatchable skill. What a player. What was it about Paul Scholes that day, Fabrice?
With Paul, I think Paul is always 2 steps ahead of everybody. Even though he's playing in midfield, but Paul is always a step ahead. He knows where the ball is gonna drop. He knows where everything is. He can control the tempo of the game. He can go slow. He can go fast. He had everything in him.
Fabrice, the pace of football in the Premier League, and it's something I've brought up on the show before. We saw something in this Premier League summer series with the preseason fixtures in the United States, where they put some body cameras on the players so that you could get like a real first-person perspective of the game. And what really stood out for me is the difference in the pace and the power of a game, that you get that sensation, and something you would have felt actually being on the pitch, at how quickly that ball moves about and how intense the game is. And I'm talking about seeing it on a camera in preseason, let alone firsthand in a Premier League game. Talk to us about that, just the absolute intensity and speed of a Premier League game.
Listen, that's why most of the Premier League team, they don't train. They train probably 45 minutes, an hour, because the weekend is when you really want to showcase your talent, where you want to showcase the tempo of the game. And obviously, everybody comes in, technically are good. Physically, they need to be fit. When you come back I remember back in the days when I come back from preseason, the first thing they did to us, they made us run. Whereas some of these guys now, when they come into preseason, they are already fit. So that running stage is gone past. So you just come from bang to football and just use football as a way of build your fitness. So it's completely different. And as I said, some of those guys, they just keep getting quicker and quicker. The game is getting quicker. I think the game has gone 5-5. It's just gone a bit quicker than it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
And Fabrice, obviously you got like some first-hand experience with this now at the Burnley side. Sports science and the improvements compared to when you were playing to now, just the amount of sports science that's going into the game today. Do you attribute a lot of that to the capabilities of the players from a physicality standpoint?
Oh, definitely. Even the workload of how much they can do in a training session. Put it that way, there is more backroom staff than there is players.
Yeah.
Interesting.
There's more backroom staff for the first team than there is in players. So that shows everything that you need to know.
We've seen a lot of ACL injuries. We saw Rafael Varane, before we wrap up the show, we saw Rafael Varane speaking out against the volume of games and the increasing of stoppage time now. And we've seen a lot of ACL injuries now early in the season. We've seen it at Real Madrid. We've seen it at Aston Villa. We've seen it at Arsenal. What's going on there? Would you agree with me in attributing this to too much going on for the players?
Yeah, I agree, and I feel like you got to be aware there was a World Cup in January.
Yeah.
So really, they never really had the break in terms of break. So I would have preferred the Premier League to start probably end of September. So everybody had a lot of break, and then you can build from there. I think that's why Varane has been vocal about it, because they're playing too many games. That's why guys are falling injury. In terms of adding time, that's stemmed from Mr. Wenger. Mr. Wenger said every single time the ball goes out the pitch, he add 10, 15 seconds. So that's why the referees start adding to that and put it together and then put the adding time. So ask Mr. Wenger why there's too many minutes.
Fabrice Muamba, thank you so much. It's been a terrific talk with you, and thank you for giving us your time and chatting to us today. We're all big fans of yours here, and it's been a very insightful chat, and we wish you all the luck in the world with Burnley this season.
No worries. Thank you guys for having me, and I hope everybody who get to watch the show enjoy it, and hopefully my prediction comes right.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll see. But go Burnley.
Yes, and
thank you, Fabrice. Say how's it to Lyle there?
Eh? Greet Lyle Foster for us. We big fans of him here in South Africa, of course.
No problem at all.
Okay, and by the way, just to say goodbye, but also, does that mean that we are the ones breaking the news that you are now at Burnley?
Oh, no, I've been in Burnley since
June, like you said.
June, but I don't talk about.
You haven't said anything,
Well, it will break itself.
It will break itself. It's broken.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much,
Thank you so
ballers, for joining us on Onside ZA, powered by Betway. Get way more. Remember to stay onside, not offside. From me, Len, Tsepi, Super Sub, and Fabrice Muamba, thank you so much for joining us. We're out.